You know what term I'm sick of hearing? We need to follow the science. I mean, how many times are we I mean, every single politician, all the media, we need to follow the science. I don't care what side you're on, left, right. That's the term. And when you hear that, I want you to think of one word. It's a pretty simple word. Most of you understand it. But when we hear that on TV the next time, when someone, I don't care who it is or what side you're on, they say, we need to follow the science when it comes to coronavirus, the word that should immediately pop into your head is bullshit. When we look at the coronavirus, it's center stage again. Not that it's left, but now it's dominating the headlines. Some states starting to close restaurants, bars. Like California, we have cases rising, new records, especially in Florida, Texas. Again, it's being those news stories, headlines, top of the news. We also had some great news this week on the vaccine front from Moderna and Pfizer. I'm going to go through later on in detail why those two phase 1 studies were very, very positive. But listening to so many people on television, I mean, the doctors, the so-called experts, politicians, and even when you look at parents, your friends, I mean, everyone's suddenly a know-it-all when it comes to COVID. And then they post on social media or they talk, to whoever. And everything they say is like fact. It's like a religion to them. You need to follow their advice. They're right. Like, dude, you need to wear a mask or you're going to get the coronavirus and die. Everyone in Florida is not wearing masks. Look what happened to them. I mean, others are like, don't ever wear a mask. You don't need one. I mean, it's the opinions vary so much. I mean, how about some middle ground here? Why is everything black and white? Yes or no? I mean, how about wear a mask indoors in all stores, which is mandated in Florida now, which, by the way, everyone I see in Florida abides by that rule. Most people in Florida wearing masks right now, even though you're going to see a little picture of someone taking a picture of a couple of kids on a beach, and everybody thinks it's all of Florida. They're so irresponsible. It's crazy. Even when it comes to locking down states again, and those opinions are so far apart to where people are saying, we need to go lockdown. This thing's spreading like wildfire, to where, hey, we got to send our kids to school right now, August, next month. States need to open. Disney parks need to be open despite record cases in Florida. It's all over the place, everywhere. I'm hearing how the cases surging in Florida and Texas. Hospitals are at full capacity, no beds left in ICU. And I got a good reach on this, guys, because this podcast not just goes throughout the country, but globally, getting lots of downloads. And just people sending me some research from crazy sites. And some of them aren't even crazy sites. Some of them are like, popular sites, but just don't have the facts right. I mean, guys, hospitals are not at full capacity. There are beds in ICU. Actually, I love the report, which was from yesterday, where journalists, and this is from Orlando Health, reported that from 50 labs, they're showing a 98% positivity rate, right? It was even a news story. And I said, wait a minute. Whoa, wait a second. All fault. It's not 98%. It's 9.8% is the positivity rate for COVID cases. I don't know, you forgot to carry the one. What happened there? 98% to 9.8%. I mean, and also in Orlando, the Veterans Medical Center, the same day said it had a positivity rate of 76%. And they crunched the numbers and the data. It showed a positivity rate for the center is actually 6%. I mean, this is data, right? This is data. This is stuff that we're making key decisions on that impact lives. And we're all over the place. All over the place. We'll follow the science. Where's the science? Because right now, everyone is a know-it-all, and you can't disagree with anyone, or can't be opinion-based or saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to wear a mask outside. I feel comfortable. If that's your choice, that's your choice. You should be wearing masks indoors. We should. Even though it's not hardcore proof, most people that wear masks, I can tell you, are not wearing them correctly. Because when you're wearing a mask, you think you're okay. You're going in stores, whatever, and you're tapping things. As soon as you get out of that store, everyone does the same thing. As soon as you walk out of those stores, you take the mask off and you're touching your lips. So it's not to say that the masks don't work. It's to say maybe they're not being used correctly, and maybe we need to upgrade a mask or whatever it is. But that's why you're seeing studies all over the place. I give you studies supporting both. Masks do work and masks don't work, and from good sources. But why is that? Why isn't there like a universal? Why can't we get on the same page here? And why does this bother me so much? Because I'm a research analyst for 25 years. And the information we gather as analysts determines the decisions we make. You guys are subscribers. I take pride in my research. Anyone a subscriber, look, because I'm doing newsletter videos that are 35 minutes long. Seems like a long time. Seems as crazy. The positive rate is probably about 96%. And I provide a PDF just in case if you hate the video. But I go through why I'm recommending that stock using my tools, which I pay a lot of money for. And you can see exactly why. Not that I'm going to be right all the time. People are wrong. But you're going to see my thesis with me in the video, sharing my screen of why I'm recommending this stocks. And I can tell you, it's not a simple system that's, hey, you do this, this, and this, and this. No. There's thousands of factors that I look at. Some of them are more key to others, depending on the industry, depending on the management team, depending on the company. But you get to see that up front. I take pride in that. Again, I'm going to get things wrong from time to time, of course. But my job is to find out all the information possible, question everything, interview experts, do boots on the ground research, talk to people that have a different opinion than me, and respect their opinion before coming to my conclusion or my thesis that I'm going to share with literally over 100,000 people who are on my platforms. That's a big responsibility. When I looked at coronavirus, this is a subject I've been reporting on thoroughly since January. Predict that COVID problem in China much worse than what's being reported, how the virus is spreading from person to person in January, even though the World Health Organization, told everyone that there is no clear evidence of this. Right? They even tweeted that on January 14th. Of course, they deleted that tweet. January. Crazy. Yeah, I told you how China's lying to us in February about how severe this is, how fast it's spreading, how every sell-side analyst was dead wrong comparing COVID to past pandemics. You say how this time, the virus, based on what we saw with SARS and the economy bouncing back, this was different than anything we ever dealt with. We weren't shutting down full economies. China was fully closed. And predicting it's going to result in an imminent market crash early February, since China, the world's growth engine, again, completely shut down. Saying how the U.S. would have more cases than any other country, which many people, including my friends, thought I was absolutely crazy after we just had, a few COVID infections? That was on the West Coast. That happened like March, very early March. Reporting to you how people getting infected the most were those with respiratory problems, those over the age of 60, how kids are largely immune. I even introduced my listeners, subscribers to the Johns Hopkins site that started to track COVID cases and deaths in every country. It's amazing. Now everybody uses it. It's great. Back then, nobody even heard of it. And this was still early February. Our stock was trading at all-time highs, right, on market. Now, all this is documented. We provide a timeline and everything I said at Curzio Research website. My podcast that I taped, they're archived for anyone to go back to see exactly what I was saying. And guys, I'm not saying this. You know me if you're a listener. I'm not saying this because I want a pat in the back. I wasn't right on everything. I actually called Jim Cramer because I was so concerned that we should close the stock market. We need to close the stock market. If we're going to shut down economies, we needed to close the stock market. What I didn't anticipate is the government will go absolutely insane and spend 12 and a half times, $6.5 trillion handing people checks of $3,000 for families, increasing unemployment by an extra $600 to the point where people were making more money on unemployment than they were when they were working. Sorry. I don't think anybody anticipated that. But that's on me. I was wrong on that. Again, I wasn't right on everything. So those that listen to my podcast for many years, I'm not being arrogant in saying this. I just had access to really great sources all over the world. I spoke to people who live in China, give me the real story of what was going on when they were in quarantine. I interviewed people in Italy who were quarantined and provided videos on that Curzio Research YouTube page. You could see them. And this is where I learned about the precautionary measures that were being taken in Europe and Asia, where everyone was wearing masks. We're just doing that now. They were quarantining people for 2 weeks who traveled into these countries. We didn't do that. They were taking temperatures. Everyone's temperatures at airports. They had police in the streets, organized, making sure people were actually following lockdown rules. None of that was in place in the U.S. And we're like, hey, we're Americans. We're the best, the greatest country on earth. This shit's not going to impact us. Yeah, go America. We're great. I mean, it was definitely going to spread here. It was spreading in those areas, and those guys had all these restrictions in place. We had none. Interviewed leading doctors, spoke to infection specialists who did not have an agenda and need to be on TV every 2 seconds. And one person who attended Johns Hopkins and was a hedge fund manager, very close friend, told me a month ago when we were deciding to open up bars and gyms in some places, that's absolutely crazy. It's going to spread. That's absolutely crazy. Haircuts, that's fine. The amount of the people that come in one at a time. Where I'm getting my haircut, they have people, they have the appointment set up and you're waiting outside for someone else to come in, which is cool. Bars, the music's loud. You're yelling. You're holding so much interaction. You're touching without masks. Come on. Gyms, come on. I mean, it is the class that people take right next to each other. But analyzing more data through February and March. I mean, I was getting sent reports from dozens of experts daily to the tune, reports of 20, 30 pages long and getting like dozens every single day. And this data was different from what I was hearing in mainstream media. And how different? Let's look at a timeline of what the so-called experts have been telling us about the coronavirus, okay? Let's start in January. Since we're supposed to be following the science, that's what these guys are doing, following the science. We need to follow the science, I love that. We need to follow the science. And heads up, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care what political party you belong to. I'm just going to read through these, and it's going to blow you away of some of the stuff that's been said in this timeline. January 8th, WHO praises China for identifying a novel virus in a short period of time and says that this is a notable achievement and demonstrates China's increased capacity to manage new outbreaks. On the 14th, January 14th, WHO announces preliminary investigations conducted by Chinese authorities have found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission of the coronavirus. This is the WHO talking to China. This was going on since November in Wuhan when this was spreading. This is January 14th. January 22nd, Trump responds to whether he's concerned about a possible pandemic. He goes, no, not at all. And we have it totally under control. Quoting him. Anthony Fauci, January 23rd. The U.S. wouldn't implement draconian shutdowns of cities like what was occurring in China. And he says there's no chance in the world, quoting, that we could do that to Chicago, New York, San Francisco. But hey, China's doing it. Let's see what happens. You're looking at January 27th, the Biden campaign, including its top coronavirus advisor, Ron Klain, praised China for being transparent and candid. Oh, really? This was spreading rapidly through Wuhan since November. You closed Wuhan, but yet you allowed people from Wuhan to travel outside of your country, which spread it all over the world. Transparent, huh? Pretty cool. January 31st, Trump says, hey, you know what? I'm restricting travel from China. And man, everybody ripped him. Biden says, no time for Donald Trump's record of hysteria, xenophobia, fear-mongering to lead the way instead of science. Love that term again. The New York Times, a disease outbreak specialist, they quoted Dr. Michael Osterholm, saying that Trump's decision to restrict travel from China was more of an emotional or political reaction. Vox tweets, is this going to be a deadly pandemic? No. Yes, they deleted it. This is all January 31st. February 2nd. The virus has infected 15 million Americans across the country and killed more than 8,200 people this season alone. That's CNN tweets. It's not a new pandemic. It's influenza. This is February 2nd. Same day, Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, New York governor. We went through this before. Zika virus, Ebola, all this stuff. Let's have some connection to the reality of the situation. And as the doctor said, catching the flu right now is much greater risk than anything that has anything to do with the coronavirus. New York City Health Commissioner, February 3rd. Barbara tweets, as we gear up to celebrate the Lunar Year in New York City, I want to show New Yorkers that there's no reason for anyone to change their holiday plans, avoid the subway or certain parts of the city because of the coronavirus. February 17th, getting to the end of this. Listen, this is good, guys. Dr. Fauci announced that the risk of the coronavirus infection in the U.S. is minuscule. Listen how close we're getting, right? March is when it crashed. We've seen the infection start hitting early March. March 2nd, Mayor de Blasio tells New Yorkers to, hey, just get on with your lives. Get out of the town despite the coronavirus. Nice job. What happened to New York? The worst hit state by far. Most deaths. March 4th, Anderson Cooper, Sanjay Gupta. So the flu right now is far deadlier. So if you're freaked out, again, it's March 4th. If you're freaked out at all about the coronavirus, you should be more concerned about the flu. And you can actually do something about it and get a flu shot. Nice and easy. March 8th on 60 Minutes, Dr. Fauci. Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around wearing masks. March 17th, Cuomo. That cannot happen. It cannot happen legally. No city in this state can quarantine itself without state approval and have no interest whatsoever and no plan whatsoever to quarantine any city. How long has New York been on lockdown now? Still mostly on lockdown, right? By the end of March and into April, guys, here's where everyone flip-flopped. Again, these are people who are supposed to be following the science, following the data. And the flip-flop was incredible. It's a totally different tune. Instead it changed from, hey, don't worry, we're Americans, we're going to be fine, to holy shit. Lock yourself inside your house. Don't talk to anyone. If you go outside, you're going to die. Showman said, if you look at the world, I mean, this is a worldwide damage. This is a damage to the U.S., but this is a damage to the world. It organizations saying, don't go to church. You're allowed to burn them, but don't go to church. WHO says we need to keep lockdowns in place. The person that was praising China, right? The organization praising China, everything is cool. Their response is great. Coronavirus doesn't spread from person to person, even though it's been doing that for 3 months in China, which is your job to be monitoring. But China didn't want to share any information, let any doctors in there. And now Dr. Fauci says recently, I don't think we should shake hands ever again. Ever again. Now, look, I'm not going over that timeline to throw Governor Cuomo, Dr. Fauci, President Trump, former Vice President Biden, most infection doctors. I don't want to throw them under the bus. These guys have been sharing their forecasts in the media. I truly believe this, guys. That a huge percentage of everyone listening to this, everyone out there, most people, we want to see fewer fatalities, fewer infections. We want to return to our normal lives. Remember, we used to go to concerts, take your family to the movies, having a drink at a bar, the social gatherings. And man, it's hitting us. It's crazy. And we look at COVID, it's nothing like we've ever seen, at least in a generation, right? There's no playbook here. And going from, hey, this isn't a big deal, stay calm, to complete panic, hysteria, worst case scenario, it's kind of par for the course when it comes to something that scares the shit out of us, right? That's normal. But for those of you who want some facts and listen to my opinion from someone that's been talking to great sources, again, feel free to disagree with it. That's okay. You can do that by sending me emails, frankcurzioresearch.com. But here are some things that I hope will be helpful to you. That's why I'm doing this. I have no agenda here. We all want to save lives. We all want to get rid of this coronavirus. But the things that are going to be helpful for you, so there are roughly 3.5 million people who have been infected with COVID in the U.S. Fact. That amounts to just over 1% of the population. We're looking at around 328 million. Of those 3.5 million people, close to 140,000 people, as of right now today, have died in the U.S. That amounts to 4% of the people who contracted. Now, that might seem like a high number. But if you look from mid-February through May, nearly 80% of these people who passed away from COVID were over 65 years old. That's 80%. With the median age of fatalities was 78 years old. That comes from the CDC. And overall, when we look at fatalities compared to our total population, the percent of people in the U.S. who die from COVID amounts to 0.04%. Guys, we cannot shut down the entire economy with a 0.04% fatality rate. The consequences are enormous. We're seeing that. And how long has this been going on for? It seems like years of coronavirus. It's 5 months, if you're counting mid-February. It's 5 months. That's it. And look at what it's done to our economy. Listen to the banks on their calls. Not Goldman Sachs. Cover that later in my educational segment. But listen to what the banks are saying that they reported. Like it's gone from, hey, June was really good, getting better a little bit, to it's gotten worse, the coronavirus. Saying the only thing that's keeping us up is you better hope the government keeps spending money because people are hurting. They're hurting. But the consequence of keeping it closed, depression, job losses, I mean, tens of millions of people. Bankruptcies, including tons of restaurants that can't even make ends meet, operating at 75% capacity. You want them to close down? Rising crime rates. We're seeing that across the board. Foreclosures, poverty, and crazy things you wouldn't even think of. Where in China, domestic abuse cases are rising since their lockdown. Not going to even make fun of that or whatever. It's just, hey, it's true based on their research. Suicide rates rise for every 1% increase in the unemployment rate. I mean, this is Oxford University research. Drug overdoses are rising. I mean, numerous studies on stuff that'll blow your mind. Just Google it and look for good sources. The consequences of keeping everything shut for a 0.04% rate, which, by the way, is going to go up. And I'm not saying to blindly open up everything and not track the numbers, because death is a measure that we need to look at. Why? Because infections are going to skyrocket. This is the playbook. This is normal. This is what stretching out the curve does. What does that mean? Well, the curve had tons of cases in the first month and a half, and we didn't have the capacity for hospitals. And that's why we're sending ships with hospital beds on the coastlines, California, New York. Now we have ventilators in place. There is capacity. We stretched it out. And now that you open up economies, more people are going to get it. That was the goal all along, wasn't it? You stretch out that curve. I've seen hospitals, they have capacity in Texas and Florida, despite what you hear. There might be a couple on the Miami end where, cases are a little bit out of control, more South Florida. But even Texas, if you look at the statistics, you're looking at the people reporting this. They're saying, hey, and a lot of data coming in is false. It's crazy. So do we need to monitor these numbers? Of course. And since Florida is seeing the largest spike in cases, everyone is wearing masks now. Everybody. I don't care what you see, what you hear. Most bars and gyms are closed again. I wouldn't have opened them in the first place. I'm going to tell you something. And I'm being real here, since I make fun of Florida a lot of the time, since I've been living here for 10 years. Shell shock. Still can't believe people hate to work here. It's weird. Florida's getting this right. Opening up their economy. More people are getting coronavirus. The average age, though, is 37 years old, where COVID has a super low rate of fatalities among this demographic. And most of the time when they get it, those symptoms are mild. That's why you're seeing low death rates as a percentage of the people who are getting tested and getting this infections. We're not seeing as many 60-year-old plus people contract the virus now because they're staying safe, and people understand that we can't be around these people. We have to wear masks around them. But when we look 6 months from now, Florida is going to be one of the leading states with the fewest cases and one of the safest states. Because we have to assume that we're not going to get a vaccine for at least another 12 months. That means people need to get the coronavirus. That's going to lead to herd immunity, which is normal. And by the way, speaking of vaccines, Moderna, Pfizer with BioNTech, both which use mRNA technology, something I'm very familiar with, followed for a long time. Basically, technology creates proteins, antibodies that help attack the virus. So it's using your own immune system to attack the virus. This is a technology these two companies are using. Both released amazing early stage data this week. Pfizer a few days ago, Moderna was last night. Incredibly promising, to the point where Pfizer and their vaccine produce antibodies that are 1.8 to 2.8 times higher than the levels of antibodies found in recovering patients. Guys, if that's too advanced, you just know that's a huge deal. That's great news. And the symptoms were not that great. Headache, fatigue, fever, nothing that was life-threatening. I've been skeptical about the hype around vaccines. There was extremely optimistic we were going to get one in a couple of months. But these two are very promising. And Moderna vaccine produced antibodies that block the ability of the virus to get into the cell, which is, again, this is phase 1, early on. Antibodies, same thing as Pfizer, at or above levels of people who have been infected with COVID. Vaccine doses across the board, well tolerated. Phase 3 trials geared towards people who need the vaccine the most. But, which is important, Moderna also said that if everything goes as planned, we get the FDA approval, the quickest we can deliver the vaccine. It can be available commercially. They just said 2021. They didn't specify when in 2021, which was interesting. They didn't say, hey, the first quarter, No, they said 2021. I mentioned earlier, coronavirus has impacted America and us since around mid-February. It's 5 months. And I know it seems like it's longer. It's only 5 months. And we're not likely to get a vaccine for at least another 9 to 12 months, which means we need to continue to monitor all the numbers, including hospitalization capacity, death rates, two most important, and keep people who are older, more susceptible to getting severe cases, isolated and safe. And what I'm going to say right now is very important because I don't know why our sentiment is like this, right? Maybe it's just social media. Everyone has opinions. Maybe it has trolls. But we're under the opinion when we make decisions that there's no consequence. There's consequences to every decision we make. Every decision we make. In World War II, once we entered the war, it was going to result in huge casualty of our troops, right? But the alternative was to let Hitler take over the world, and none of us would probably be able to, right? Which was not an option. But people were going to die. People have to make those decisions. With coronavirus, there's no foolproof solution to this problem. We have to realize it. We want to make the best choice possible. And closing state economies across the board, it's not an option. It's not going to cause the virus to suddenly disappear, or like the CEO of Salesforce believes, that if everyone wears masks, COVID will disappear in 3 weeks, which zero data supports that. The virus isn't going to disappear. Yeah, the numbers will go down, but it's not going to disappear until we have a vaccine, and we don't know if that's a fact or not. Well, places so much hope in a vaccine, even with those positive phase 1 results that we saw this week. But remember, the quickest the world has seen a vaccine come to market is 4 years, and that was back in the 60s. So it doesn't make sense to have all this hope on a vaccine. You have to play it that, hey, we're probably not going to get a vaccine here for another 9 to 12 months, which is longer than the coronavirus has impacted us so far. And look what it has done. Talk to your friends. Talk to your families. Yeah, you're looking at the market going higher because the Fed's providing tons of liquidity. Spend 30% of GDP so far to prop things up. But man, you're looking on Main Street, it's terrible. It's horrible. You guys know what I'm talking about. Some of your business happen to be thriving. But I know you have friends where, I have friends that own gyms, that own restaurants. A lot of restaurant owners here. But it's crazy because when I look at New York, and New York reported that it had 0 deaths for a full day, I think that might have been Sunday or so. Listen, I love the fact that people aren't dying. But New York's economy remains closed for the most part. And I have to tell you, my friends, people that I know I was there for living there close to 40 years. It's like dire situation. Crime rates surging, police retiring, the cost of living crazy expensive, which, hey, I have access to restaurants and bars. All of it's closed. What are you paying for? Commercial real estate. Holy cow. There's a lot of people that aren't generating income right now, paying the high cost of living in the major city. But New York needs to open up. They haven't opened up yet. They shut down completely because it was so bad there, of the way they handled it. And who knows who would have did better. And again, you want to follow the science, but all the science is wrong. I just showed you. I mean, who did I mention in that timeline? The WHO, CDC, the president, Biden, Dr. Fauci, all the people that we're following, follow the science. This is what they've been saying and how dead wrong they've been. Again, I'm not picking on them because this is something new. But you have to use your common sense here. New York needs to open up slowly. They're going to see cases spike, which is fine as long as they follow the playbook. Florida got a little out of hand, getting in, bars and every single restaurant opened and gyms and stuff. Be careful. You want to slow it down, but you have to monitor the hospitalization rates and the deaths, which are in line. You need to slow it down a little bit. So you see a couple places close. But as you see those cases spike, it means more people are getting tested. It's a good thing. And for example, New York, only 60,000 people are getting tested daily in New York right now. Yet Florida, that number is close to 150,000. Why is that? New York was the most impacted. More and more people should be getting tested. They don't have symptoms because they stayed inside. But again, the virus isn't going to just, disappear. It's not. So they got to go through the whole phase that Florida's going through. It's going to be a disaster. You're going to see cases spike. You're going to wait for a vaccine. Listen, I hope we get a vaccine. I hope we get a vaccine tomorrow. But use your common sense here. It's not going to happen, at least for a while. We need more people to get the coronavirus. It's going to be a good thing as long as it's coordinated. As long as we're looking at the numbers. And from some people living in Florida, hearing the stories out there of people not wearing masks, kids partying, it's such bullshit. Everyone here is wearing masks. Hospitals are open. There are ICU beds in most areas. You're not seeing infected people on the streets, say, oh, I need a bed to open up, or they're going to die. You're not seeing that. You're not seeing that. It's being reported. It's crazy. We have enough ventilators to where 25% of the population probably could get a serious case of coronavirus, and they're going to be covered. And we're in such shortage that we overproduce. No one's talking about that anymore, right? Ventilators? No, they're in a huge supply. That's great. But you're looking out there and the misinformation out there on COVID. And I know you guys have your own shows that you watch. It's insane. And you want to post data on my social media platform. Someone's been covering this and talking to good sources. Again, it's not going to be right all the time, but we have a very good track record so far. Those Twitter, Facebook, YouTube on my channels. Get angry emails sometimes with people who are just being misinformed because they saw a picture of a couple of idiots in Florida on a beach with no mask. It means the whole state of Florida doesn't wear masks. You can't get into any place in Florida without wearing a mask. At the whole entire time, everybody who worked for these places, now it's everybody that enters stores. There's signs on all the doors. You need to wear a mask. But it's amazing enough with it. We're talking about lives, right? And this is political. Where you're looking at red states want to open up and blue states don't. I mean, each governor should have his own opinion. And why the fuck is this political? Because as governor, you're not doing what you believe is in the best interest of the people living in your state. You're doing what your political party believes you should do in order to get votes in November, which is completely insane since we are talking about lives. How could this be political? And this is like a difference of opinion, or you're going after Trump and you don't like him, or you're going after Biden. This is lives. This is a coronavirus, guys. We got to be on the same page. I love the fact that there's leading doctors across the board saying, hey, you know what? Kids need to go back to school because if you're looking at the percentages, kids, it's extremely low. They're almost immune to this thing, which is crazy. Are you going to be able to cite a case of a kid getting it? Yes, of course you are. Of course you are. Absolutely. But for the most part, when you look at the data, it makes sense for kids to go back to school. And if you don't believe, I've seen that on that's like across the board, almost across the board. Not talking about far left, crazy right. I'm talking about just, Fox, CNN, and NBC. I mean, a lot of them are together on this saying, hey, based on the data with kids going back, it makes sense. It does. And I think it's like 65%, 70% of parents agree that this should happen. I know the risks. My kid has Crohn's. I know the risks, but I believe they should go back to school. I know I could take her off from medicine if anything happens. I've also had them tested just in case. Everything came back negative because they had mild symptoms, a little bit of a fever. I was kind of hoping they got it because this way it'll be over with, because if they had it, that means they had it for a week and they were okay at that point. But no, everything came back negative for all of us, which is cool. But man, when I'm looking at this and seeing how this is political and information out there, sorry this intro is a little bit long, but guys, you have to understand, people who say we need to look at the science, just have that sign go, that flag go up. It's bullshit. Because you're looking at the science, and the science has been so wrong. And as a research analyst who really prides himself on research, getting it right, talking to people, a lot of these politicians are not talking to the people that are disagreeing with them. They don't care what they say. It's about an election. It's about getting votes. That's how bad they want power. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about me. That's my theme, at least for the past month and a half on this podcast. You have to look out for your best interest of you and your family, because the politicians do not care. They don't care. The only reason why they jumped on Black Lives Matters is for votes. They'll jump on anything to get votes, and you have to be aware of that. But the information out there, why we can't be more on the same page based on data that makes sense, is just crazy, especially as political. So be careful out there. Want to set the record straight. Someone's been following us for a long time. Look at my website, Curzio Research. You'll see the timeline. And you see a lot of things I'm right on, a few things I was wrong on. But everything's archived. And that's the way it should be. We should all have timelines of things that we're saying, because we need to be held accountable. Because if you're looking at the data and you're looking at the science, you got to follow science. Anyone who said that has been dead wrong. So if you hear that again, just be careful. Just know everything that comes after he says that or she says that is going to be bullshit, and you'll be fine.